Alright guys, well, we're beginning to work on the backsplash here. We're using this natural stone material, which we have sealed them all in advance before we stick them on the wall. Just easier that way with them laying flat. And that'll ensure that the grout doesn't just wick down into this natural material and make it look all nasty. So I just slid a piece down and scribed a line. So I'll keep my mortar below that. We'll get them on there and I'll cut them off as needed and grout it out on Monday. Alright guys, got the backsplash installed. Nothing really to note there, super simple. We went simple on this for two reasons. One, of course, cost, and two, this is really a personal preference. What some folks may like, others may not. So rather than spend a bunch of money and time in here, we elected to go this direction. So whoever ends up with the property, if they want to change it and put glass, marble, whatever they want in here, it's just a matter of taking these two rows off and they can finish it out with whatever they like. But we're trying to remain neutral, but still yet tie everything together. And I think we achieved it based on our options. So all in all, it's looking pretty good. Alright, we got the backsplash all grouted in. Just need to run a bead of caulk around the top. Making more progress. Alright guys, we're a mere days away from getting this project all wrapped up and finished. I'm in the process now of preparing to put the garage in paint. I need to do a little bit of masking in here. I'm going to shoot the trim and then I'll come back and shoot the ceiling and walls probably tomorrow. And then the overhead door will be our last piece of bad mojo. It's all torn up. I'll illustrate that when I get to it, but I just happened to walk by here and out of the corner of my eye she caught my attention. That's a black widow spider, and right up here in this next bay, I don't know if you can see that little white sack right there. There's going to be one or two jumping spiders in that. She's going to get dispatched. I'll cut these loose and let them move on. The jumping spiders are actually really cool and beneficial. They're great hunters too. I'm kind of surprised they were in such close proximity to each other that the jumper did not find her. But if I can get her over to her, I'd like to see what would happen. But anyway, I'll take care of that one. Alright, garage is in paint now. I've just got to do a little bit of minor electrical out here and it's all wrapped up, aside from the garage door and the opener. Just a quick shot of the existing original door that's coming out. It's going to have one pretty much similar to this, but white. This is the door that's coming out. It's got spray paint on it, things like that, but it's actually severely crippled and damaged. You can see these stiles right here with the rollers in between. There's one right here, but it's missing a complete section. It's been yanked out up here and ripped, and someone put a piece of angle iron on to try to fix it. The reason it's like this, someone locked it, evidently at some point in time. Then they hit the garage door opener and they buckled the door in and just popped everything loose. So on the new door, I will not be installing a latch. So nobody does me any favors and locks the door and then someone inadvertently hit it and tear up the new door. I may install the latch just as we close the house, maybe the day prior. So if anybody does that in the future, it's not going to be on my dime. Why they don't just pierce a hole in this lock mechanism right here to where one could put a padlock on it if they wanted to keep it from being locked inadvertently is beyond me. I may go ahead and pierce a hole in the new one and hang a padlock on it. That way nobody can lock it and do some damage before we close on the house. And rather than me have to come back in and bring tools or whatnot, I can just remove my lock just prior to closing. This is the new door and all associated hardware, springs and whatnot that will be installed. It's in the living room because I actually got it over here prematurely and I needed to paint out the garage. So I do need to take the other one out and then go ahead and start the installation procedure on this one. I'd mentioned well back in my videos that I had a friend that was in the overhead door business. So I was going to get a door at wholesale cost and then just pay him some labor to help me install it, but he's no longer in the business. But I went over to the company and they didn't really want to deal with me, but I was able to finesse and talk my way into getting a wholesale account set up with them. So I was able to purchase this door at a wholesale price. I will be installing it myself, by myself. So we're going to get underway with that, see how it goes. Alright, well I'm getting ready to unwind this spring right here, this torsion spring. And with these winding bars I've made, these are just 2 1/2-inch pieces of stainless steel. And then I've put some tape on here to make sure that they go up in the sockets properly. This is a real safety conscious thing right here. You don't want to be in line with these bars while you're either winding or unwinding these springs, nor do you want to be inside the spring over here. You want to keep your body and everything on the outside. So if you slip or if something goes wrong and you're in the line of these bars, they can hurt you really bad. So I'm going to go up here. There are 2 set screws, and then I'll loosen them up and I'll unwind this spring. Now I'm not changing the spring, so I don't care what this torsion bar does right here. There's drums on the end that have the cables wound. I don't care if the cables come off because I'm not just doing a spring replacement. And that'll also let me turn it and make sure I've got all of them, all of the tension released. Okay, well I'm just going to put this in the hole here. You would typically push up on it or pull up to apply tension, so it's actually going to drop down when I'm releasing this. There are 2 set screws. Go ahead and loosen these up one at a time. There's one, and then here comes number 2. This one was buried in there pretty deep. Okay, so now I've got the tension rested on this door. And I'm going to go side to side on these, meaning quarter turns. I'll put one in, pull up, release the bottom one, and let this one come down. I'm doing it all with the same hand, so I'm actually rotating the bars from hand to hand. It's going to take me a little bit to do this. There's probably about 8 turns or so on this. You never want to use anything to do this other than the proper tool. Cold rolled steel, stainless in my case. This is just lathe material. No screwdrivers, nothing else. Kind of binding on something. They're definitely loose. Someone probably tightened up these screws a little much, so they're binding down on that rod. Yeah, they're binding up on me. I will get it off. Oh yeah, they dug in that thing hard. So I'll go ahead and get this unwound and we'll move on. Alright, now you can see I've got all the tension off on this. So now I know it's perfectly safe where I can handle this without fear of getting injured. This is something I've done a lot of research and homework on, especially related to this portion. Installing the door in its own right is a fairly simple process, but care should be taken here. Or if you can get a door, put everything in and pay somebody to come and wind it up. Either way. But do your homework is my point. Okay, I misspoke a little bit earlier. I'd mentioned that I didn't care if this turned and relieved tension off the cables here to change a spring. That's not true. You would have to remove this if you were going to change a spring. However, you're just going to re-tension the garage door. You would put some vice grips up here to prevent the cables from coming off like this one did. So you could make your adjustment without losing the cable off the drum. But in this case, I don't care. So now I can just take these cables out of here and this portion will be finished. All right, well, I'm ready to start removing these panels. I'm going to start at the top and work my way down. The way I'm going to do it is I'll release these two screws right here and let this fall down, still supporting the panel below it with this roller. And I'll take them all off and do that the same way. Then I'll move up into this corner. I'll take that bracket off, get the roller out of the way, hold the door and walk my way to the other side and remove the other one. Then I can lift the panel out and set it down. I'll do the exact same thing on every one until I get them all out. All right, I've got the first panel out. I think my lighting conditions improved a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and shoot a little bit of this one just so I can be clear on what I was showing. This is the hinge I was referring to. I'm just taking out the top portion and letting it fall down. Then on each side I'm doing the same thing on these end hinges, only the top portion of the hinge. So now I can let this fall down and it's actually holding the panel that's beneath it. I still have this one installed in the top. That will be the last ones that I remove, and then I can lift this panel out. All right, I've got the door out. Once I got the tension released off of it, that literally only took me about 5 minutes to get that out of there. Not even breaking a sweat. I need to get this torsion bar out right here. The new bracket has a slot in the front, so you could mount that to the wall first and then push the rod in through that slot. This one, however, is fully encapsulated. So to get this off, I'll just simply take the lag bolts out of the wall. I'll loosen up both of these drums on the end where they can slide down the shaft. I'll push it one way, bring it out, and then pull it back, and that will be free. Then at that point, I'm just going to simply come in and remove all this track right here. Alright guys, all the track is out. I believe I'm about 20 minutes in, including getting out my tools. It's super fast to get these out. I'm at the stage now where I'm going to put some trim up here to cover this gap and just make everything look a little bit better. I've got it pre-painted. I've had it for a long time. I just need to cut it to length, attach it, and then we'll move on to installing the door. Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell on myself I made a mistake. I'm going to be able to fix it with what I've got here. I've got two 1x4x8s and two 1x6x8s and this piece of 1x8 right here. I was going to come up here with a 1x4 extending up to catch that hanger bracket and then use the header trim coming across here at a 1x6, and that wide bracket would go up to support that. Well, I added this on after the fact because this rough opening was a little wide for the door, and I wanted to bring it in a little bit tighter so the weather strip would curl along the door a little nicer. So my material is now too narrow here on the 1x4, and I'm not going to be able to support my brackets. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to use my 1x6 material here, which will come out enough to support these brackets, and then I'll come across with a 1x4 on the top and then put that piece up in the middle. It's not the way I wanted to do it, but that's the way it's going to be done now. Alright, well, I've got the door trim installed. Looks much better than having exposed framing. I put this brace up here in the center of the span. The original bracket was mounted a little bit off center, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of spackling up there. I don't know if it truly matters if it's offset a little bit, but being my first time hanging a door, I wanted to make sure that I had that bracket in the center with a spring on each side to make sure everything would balance out nicely. It may not be required, but that's what I'm going to do.